Hello, Merry Meet. So it is the new moon today, and that makes it appropriate to do a video that I have been asked to do a few times, and it is to talk about the moon rituals I do other than the full moon. Because I tend to celebrate each of the quarters of the moon. Basically, I celebrate the full moon. I tend to use it's a very simple ritual that you will find in Scott Kahneman's book Vika, A Guide to the Solitary Practitioner. I've used that ritual since I started, and I'm very happy with it. It's a full moon ritual there. And I also light a candle and say a small prayer at each of the quarters. So the 2 half moons and the dark moon or new moon. And the reason why I'm doing this is I feel that there are power in each of the phases of the moon. It's not just the full moon that has power and that needs and that it's beneficial to connect with the energies of, but all the moon phases. And it's also, I think it creates a nice symmetry to basically, with the Sabbats, you are then going through the cycle of the year. Basically, it's the cycle of the sun. While when you're celebrating each of the quarters of the moon, you are celebrating the same cycle that the moon is doing. It is born, it's a young adult, it's at the height of its power, it is waning and going into the underworld, and it is reborn. It's the same cycle that are celebrated with the Sabbats, but then with the sun. So I feel it creates a nice symmetry to that. And yeah, I enjoy doing it, that's why. It's definitely nothing that you have to do, but it is something that I feel creates a little bit of an extra connection to the moon's cycle and also creates a more realization that it is actually the same cycle, it's just that it is within a month instead of a year. But it is the same cycle, the same concepts. So, yes, because both the goddess and the god, the sun and the moon, yang and yin, have their moments when they are at the peak of their power and the moments when they are resting and are recuperating until they start to grow again. And connecting to both of these cycles, or the cycles of both of those forces, are quite beneficial, at least for me. So, what sort of ritual do I do? Well, it doesn't really take that long because, like I said, it is lighting a candle and saying a prayer. For the 2 half moons, I basically light a candle and I visualize the half moon bathing me in its energies, and I say this simple prayer. I'll translate it later. For when it's rising half moon, I say oppover, oppover, oppover du går, ærede måne du går og går. I dager, uker, måneder og år. Jeg hilser deg, måne, her hvor jeg står. Oppover, oppover, oppover du går. Which is Norwegian, and it translates as rising, rising, rising. You are rising. Honored moon. You never stop. For days and weeks and months and years. You're rising, rising, rising. I greet you, O moon. Here I stand. And then at the sinking half moon, I basically do exactly the same thing, only instead of the word for rising, I use the word for sinking and going downward, so then it becomes nedover, nedover, nedover du går, ærede måne du går og går, i dager, uker, måneder og år. hilser der måne her hvor jeg står. Which then becomes downward, downward, downward you go. Oh, honored moon, you never stop. For days and weeks and months of years. Downward, downward, downward you go. I greet you, O moon, here where I stand. So basically, it doesn't exactly take long, but I think it's a nice little mark. And then for the black moon, I again light a candle, and I envision basically a sky with no moon in it, and I say a simple prayer. So I say a bit tired today, can't think. So if I mess up any of the words, I hope you will forgive me. I say, on this night, the moon is resting. I look forward to again seeing the celestial jewel gleam in the night sky. I greet the Mother Goddess and her consort, the Father God, those whose dance drive the universe. I greet the dark moon with lighting this candle in its honor. Hail to the moon, hail to the moon, hail to the moon. I also have this prayer in Norwegian, which is what I use, but I had a bit of a brain fart when it came to what the words were. It's basically thought I'd just say it in English, since most of those that watch my videos are English. But you get the point, you don't have to say the same words as I do, you just make up your own. It's a small, it's just a small marking. It doesn't take more than 2-3 minutes. I don't basically do a full circle casting or anything of this. Just light the candle and say the prayer and do a little visualization. But how much or how little you do, that's up to you. But I feel that it sort of makes me more aware of the moon cycles. I should probably also show you the candle holder I use. It's not very moon-like, and it's a bit dusty. These things here just draw just like dust. I have this lotus candle holder, and it's so dusty. I did my ritual earlier today, so there's a empty. Basically, I like to use a lotus candle holder for moon rituals. I am so wanting one that's basically white pearlized. I have the one that looks like this, but instead of red, it's white pearlized. I haven't been able to get one yet, because that would be so much more appropriate. And I put this here under it, because to me it looks like a good symbol for the moon. This is artificial quartz, or rather, it is real quartz. It has all the chemical components of quartz, but it is produced in a lab rather than grown in nature. So the energy is a little bit different, but with the shape and such, I think it makes a good plate to have a candle holder on when doing a little moon ritual. So yeah, I guess this video is a little bit disorganized, because it's both talking about why I'm doing these rituals and also how I'm doing them. But yeah, for me, I actually recommend it. Because when you do these things regularly, it's the same as doing the sabbats regularly, or the asbats, the moon rituals, it's not so much, oh, but these gods and these entities will get angry at you if you don't worship regularly, because I don't believe that, but it helps you connect with those energies. It helps you get a feel for them. So that, for example, after I started doing sabbats regularly, the changing of the seasons becomes something far more than just a date in a calendar. You sort of feel much more that, okay, now it's spring, now it's summer, now it's autumn, now it's winter. It has much more of an impact. It connects you more to those cycles in nature. And I think that if you include celebrating the other aspects of the moon than just the full moon, first of all, it makes it easier to remember what phase of the moon you're in. Because when you are in a habit of lighting this candle, then you sort of have to keep yourself updated on that, and then you sort of get a general feeling for it, so it's easier to think, oh, well, the moon is waxing, so then such and such rituals are appropriate. Oh, no, it's waning, so no, such and such rituals are appropriate. It makes it easier to remember that. But also, it connects you more to those changes in the moon, so you basically it makes it easier to draw benefit from the energies of that time. So yeah, but again, like I said, this is in no way saying, oh, you have to do this because, oh, I'm such an amazing pagan because I do this, I go beyond, above and beyond, yay me. That's not the point of it, because everybody should do what they feel works for them. And there's a lot of people that might try this and it just wastes some candles. But for me, I feel I have a real benefit for it, and I feel it makes the cycle of the moon more special to me. And it basically creates it as a nice contrast to the cycles of the sun. And I mean, some people going beyond that, they do little markings of the various places on the day, because if you look at the Wiccan Wheel of the Year, you can say it's exactly the same as the sun. Each day has its Beltane, its Midsummer, its Lammas, and so on and so forth. And some people basically, I know, for example, someone that when the sun gets to these points during the day, they stop and just basically contemplate for a moment. They don't do a big ritual or anything, but they contemplate for a moment, so that when the day is at basically midday, when it's right between the and it is on the day as it would be Ostara, that would be mid-morning, I mean. They stop and they just think about those energies for a moment. Then they stop a few hours later and just think for a few moments on Beltane and so on and so forth. I can imagine that actually is quite effective, but for me that becomes a little bit too much work, and I have to keep track of all of this. So doing a ritual every week for the moon, and that ritual just being lighting a candle, that works for me. So yeah, that are my words about it. Basically hope it answers the questions of those who ask me about why I light a candle for the other quarters of the moon than just the full moon, and also give some idea of how I do it. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Have a great day, and blessed be.